No doubt, all of us today have made many different decisions. Maybe some were significant, maybe not so significant. But have you ever asked yourself, do these decisions have any reflection on what kind of person you are? With this thought in mind, let's review what we know about Esau and if his decisions reflected what kind of person he was. Our circuit overseer recently gave us a good explanation of Esau, but let's briefly review some of his decisions. Please turn with me to Genesis chapter 25 and verse 27. And as we read, let's focus on how Esau decided to spend his time. Verse 27 says, "As the boys got bigger, Esau became a skilled hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a blameless man, dwelling in tents." The Inside Book says Esau was fleshly minded and materialistic. Well, what choices did Esau make when choosing his associates or whom he would marry? Let's turn our Bibles over to Genesis chapter 26, verses 34 and 35. In 34 it says, "When Esau was 40 years old, he took as wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and also Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite." And before we read 35, let's realize how it affected his parents on who he married, and they were a source of great grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Of course, we all know about his bad decision to sell his sacred birthright, and because of that, he lost the right to be in the direct line of the promised seed. But let's see how Esau's decision affected his future. Let's turn to Malachi chapter 1 and verse 3. And that says, "And Esau I hated, and I made his mountains desolate, and left his inheritance for the jackals of the wilderness." As the verse shows, Esau's decision brought calamity. Now, none of us are like fleshly, materialistic, and unappreciative Esau, but let's meditate and examine some thought-provoking questions. The title of our talk is "Our Decisions Reflect Whether We Appreciate Sacred Things." Well, what sacred thing do we have? Well, of course, our relationship with Jehovah. Now, let's review some everyday decisions and see how these reflect in Esau, how they might reflect an Esau-like attitude. 1. All of us have to decide what we're going to wear today and how we're going to dress. And Jehovah and his organization counsel us on how we shouldn't do that. So, isn't that a decision there? 2. We have choices in entertainment and music. We are counseled not to love violence or immoral entertainment. But stop and think if our choices show if we appreciate sacred things, or do we allow an Esau-like attitude to creep up? And 3, our association and friends. Jehovah tells us to marry only in the Lord, and that bad associations will spoil useful habits. What do our decisions there reflect? We have seen the bad example that Esau set and how that turned out for him. In contrast, let's turn to Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. That reads, "Trust in Jehovah with all your heart, and do not rely on your own understanding. In all your ways take notice of him, and he will make your path straight." So, as we can all see, our choices not only reflect our appreciation of sacred things, but they can profoundly affect our future. So, when making decisions, whether big or small, let us always keep in mind the words that we just read in Proverbs, that if we take notice of Jehovah in all our ways or in all our decisions, he, no doubt, will make our path straight.